Hello, everyone. This is Travis J. Vernon, and welcome to today's podcast. Well, my wife and I just barely got back from North Carolina for our 10th anniversary. We ended up planning that. We have a really fun client who comes out all the time with his wife, and I have fished with them, since the late 90s, early 2000s. One of the very first times we fished, we were crossing a high mountain stream, and they had their young daughter, Hannah, with them. And I just picked Hannah up and carried her across the river because it was going to be easier than her wading because she was so small. And we've just been friends forever. It's not really a client-guide relationship. It's just being friends. And these folks have invited us down for many, many years to come visit in North Carolina. And our very first trip to North Carolina was for our honeymoon. It's kind of a funny story. When Nancy and I were getting married, about a month before our wedding, I asked for her passport because I needed to buy airfare, and I knew she wanted to go spend time on the beach. And she gave me a funny look and said, "Oh yeah, I need to go get one of those." I'm like, "What do you mean you need to go get one of those?" And Nancy says, "Well, I've never had a passport." Now, I grew up as a Navy brat. I didn't know people existed that didn't have passports. I didn't even know it was a thing. So I just figured that she needed to have it renewed. So I said, "Well, you're pushing the envelope, but we can probably get it renewed." She said, "No, I've never had a passport." At which point I realized we were pretty screwed. There was really no way for us to travel out of the country, which just changed my plans a little bit. Figured, okay, well, now we'll look at U.S. Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico or Florida. And then somebody had been telling me about the Outer Banks of North Carolina. We'd never been. So we ended up deciding to go to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Stayed in a town called Kill Devil Hills. And we just had an absolute ball. We met some great people when we were down there. I introduced Nancy to boiled peanuts, which if you've never had boiled peanuts, I love them. Not everybody does, but they're outstanding. I love to fish wherever I go. Nancy's completely aware of that. So when we were on our honeymoon, we fished for blue crabs, we fished for bluefish, we fished in the ocean multiple times. One day I met a really good friend who I've known now for the last 10 years, and I was catching a lot of bluefish on a fly rod. So he came over and asked me, he's like, "What am I doing wrong with my casting?" So I ended up guiding a little bit, helping him out, getting him dialed in on the flies. Well, pretty soon some guys from a boat, because I was fishing from shore. I was fishing down by the Oregon Inlet right from shore. And some guys in a boat came out, and the guy was trying to fly fish and just wasn't having any success either. And I said, "Well, your cast is good, your stripping is good, but you probably just don't have the right fly." He said, "Well, this is the only fly I have." So me being me, I'm like, "Well, can you get your boat a little closer and cast to me?" Now, they weren't in like a skiff or anything. They were in a decent size, like a 30-ish foot contender type fishing boat. And he said, "Well, I'll try." So he gets to me and he casts, and he can't quite make it to me. So I end up just casting over his line, hooking his fly, bringing it in. And I changed out his rig. I put on a different fly for him. I'm like, "All right, I'm going to throw this in the water. As soon as I throw it in the water, I want you to strip it back because it's weighted." He said, "Okay." So I threw it in the water. I don't think he made 4 strips, and he stuck a blue. It was just fun. We just had a ball. Nancy thought it was funny. Here we are on the other side of the country, and you just can't help yourself. You have to help other people. It's just what I do. I want people to be successful. I want other people to enjoy fly fishing. I've caught plenty of fish. I've hunted plenty of animals. I've done the things I really want to do. I mean, I still have bucket list things, don't get me wrong. But I get an immense amount of joy watching other people be successful. So these friends of ours from North Carolina came up last summer, and Nancy and I fly fished with them for a bit, and we had dinner and some different things. And they finally said, "Well, we're about ready to give up on you guys ever coming to North Carolina to visit us." And they had a beautiful little cottage near Asheville in the Maggie Valley. So finally I told Nancy, I said, "We really need to go down. We just need to go visit. Maybe we should just go down for our 10-year anniversary and go back to North Carolina again." She agreed, and we thought that'd be a good time. Well, then, of course, me being me, I started digging in to see where I can fish close by. And there are tons of places that you can fish around Asheville, North Carolina. We fished on the Cherokee Nation. Got a Cherokee fishing license. They have a whole bunch of stocked waters, some bigger fish. Now, we were there the end of April, first part of May, and it was already starting to get a little busy, so I can't even imagine how busy it would be during the summertime. But I fished some pretty busy waters in Utah and Wyoming too, so you can work your way around it. We just fished other spots. One of the first spots we fished on the Cherokee Nation, we hadn't even been there 10 minutes. And I hooked up on a pretty good rainbow, and then Nancy hooked up on a pretty good rainbow, and we were throwing dry droppers. And some other people were watching us and immediately moved down to where we were fishing, which I'm not super cool on getting crowded out of spots. So we just ended up hiking. We had our waders on, crossed the river, went downstream, and just hiked until we got to where it was harder for people to get to where we were, and kept fishing. We had a great time. Fished for a couple hours, caught a bunch of fish. Bit of a learning curve for Nancy, learning about poison ivy and what to avoid. She'd never had to deal with that before. And from some of my other podcasts, I'm sure you've heard of my horror stories with poison ivy. But we had a wonderful time down near Asheville. Ended up driving up into the Southern Appalachian Mountains. Caught our first Southern Appalachian brook trout, which was just outstanding. They're just such pretty fish. And I love catching native fish in their native waters. And I know brook trout aren't trout, they're char. But I do love catching native fish. It was just a great time. Nancy caught her first Southern Appalachian brook. I caught my first. I caught brook trout in the Blue Ridge before when I was spending some time in Virginia, Washington, D.C. area. But this is the first time I'd fished the southern part of the Appalachian Mountains in those high mountain streams. I mean, high mountain for them. I would consider that more mountainous than I had expected. So I go to a lot of parts of the country and everybody says how big their mountains are in different spots. And I guess it's hard to compare because when I think of big mountains, I think of the Tetons, the Wind River, the Bighorn, Medicine Bow, the Uinta. I mean, those are big mountains. Now, sometimes it doesn't seem like it's a big mountain because you're already at 7,000 feet. And if that mountain's 10 or 12,000 feet in elevation, you got about a 5,000 foot gain. When we were in Asheville, some of those mountains, I mean, they weren't super, super tall, but still 4,000 foot elevation gains from base to top. And that's pretty significant. I was impressed. Cool country, fun streams, nice and clean water. Ran into elk all the time, which feels just like being at home. So we had a great trip. We really try to eat at places that when we're home, we can't eat at. Not a big fan of chains. I like to find the hole in the wall, fun place to eat. And we did a lot of that. Had some amazing barbecue, had some amazing fried chicken. Got to have boiled peanuts again. Found a couple places where they had some great little hole in the wall markets. Went and picked our own strawberries from a farm. It's just a good time. Good people. Great friends. We just love traveling. I wish I could do it more. These last few weeks I've been guiding quite a bit. And a lot of my clients have asked me, have you fished here? Have you fished there? The hard thing about being a fishing guide in the West, when the fishing's good for me, it's good for a lot of other places in the West also. So if I want to go fish the Madison, or go hit a piece of water during the salmon fly hatch, or if I want to go fish a big stonefly hatch somewhere, I pretty much have to take time off. So not only does it cost me money because I'm going on vacation, but it costs me money because I'm not making any. So more often than not, I just buckle down, put my nose to the grindstone and get through the season. And then Nancy and I take trips on our shoulder seasons, which for us is around our wedding because I planned that out because I didn't want to get married or have anniversary type stuff during the peak seasons. And we usually get to go somewhere the end of October, first part of November, before the ski season really starts getting going and I get back into the ski shop for the wintertime. I am very blessed. I have a great time in the out of doors and I work at a place that allows me to do that. My quality of life is outstanding when it comes to spending time in the out of doors and being able to do the things I want to do. So we spent a little bit of time hiking on the Blue Ridge Parkway, finding some spots where there hadn't been a lot of damage from the hurricane. And we were able to hike into some areas and fish some small streams. and just had a great time. We stopped at 2 different fly shops. Both of those fly shops, the people were amazing. And I know I've said this before, but one of the rules when you go into a fly shop and ask for information, you better drop some money. Buy at least a dozen flies. Grab some of the shop stickers, throw them on your water bottles, throw them on your cooler, throw them on your truck, throw them on your rod vault. But spend some money in those local areas when you're trying to get information. I think this fall shoulder season, I really want to go back to Oregon and go Dungeness crabbing. Not sure if I'm going to be able to talk Nancy into it. It's been a few years since we were up there. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We always have a good time regardless of where we go. I think she's just not looking forward to a 13-hour drive, which I'm not either. It ends up being a super long drive. But man, is it nice having a bunch of Dungeness crab in the freezer. Well, I'm going into that busy time of year. Today's the first day of June. I have today off, and there's 4 other days that I'm not booked for yet. But I'll probably get booked here coming up, and then I'll start to double up. Do a morning trip and an evening trip. Try and get as many people on the water as I can. Have a great June, July, and hopefully we get a bunch of rain out here so that we can have a great August. If you're looking to do some fly fishing, the end of June through that middle part of July is probably the best of the best. Unless we go up into the high mountains, and then I'd say the entire month of July and most of August, depending on weather, are outstanding. If you come towards the end of, middle to the end of August, then we can get into some really good foraging and trout fishing. So if you want to hit the water, hit me up. Let's get out and have some fun and play. And get out there and live your stories.